Okay.
Kyle woke up. He is famous.
Are you able to hear this or no? Because it is narrated.
A little bit.
Kyle is host of the most popular talk show in recent memory, Stay Up Late with Kyle.
Okay.
Stay Up Late with Kyle has grown in popularity quickly in the last year, and the public has noticed. Inside has called Kyle a most excellent dumpy white man. Top
Dumpy
Tech
white
noted
man.
that Kyle is inspiring youth to explore STEM fields. Most other talk shows are dedicated to discussing Kyle and his personal details. Most online videos are best-of clips taken from Kyle's latest broadcast. The eye of the world is upon Kyle. Tonight is Kyle's most important guest interview yet. Stay Up Late with Kyle will be featuring Rachel May. She is a kind and lovely philanthropist.
Okay.
She is dear to the hearts of many. This interview requires preparation. Kyle cracked his eyes open, knowing today is his last chance to prepare for the interview. Kyle has 30 hours left. He must choose his actions wisely.
Kyle's first decision of the morning was made wisely. Exit the bed or browse social media
Or
wither away. Exit the bed. Kyle exited his bed and took a quick glance around his bedroom. Scavenge, open the closet, sit at desk, exit bedroom to hallway. Scavenge?
Kyle quickly crouched down on the floor,
Down on the
realizing
floor,
his
realizing
immediate
his
need
immediate
for...
need for bugs, gossip, back to bedroom, or resources. I want to know what resources implies.
Kyle began to comb through the damp piles of
Through the
filth and
dump
mold on his
piles of
floor
filth
in
and
search of
mold on
helpful
his
items.
floor. Search for helpful items, okay.
After finding and eating a few bits of crumbs and old shoes, Kyle found something much more important.
What did Kyle find?
Indeed, it was the corpse of Harry, a friend that had gone missing years ago while at Kyle's house.
Why the hell does he have a dead friend?
Kyle was glad to see him again, but was unsure of whether to interrupt such an important day with Harry business.
Deal with Harry or leave him for another time. Let's leave him.
Kyle
Just nap it.
decided Harry could wait another day and quietly folded a pile of filth back on top of him.
Okay.
you just
Exit
wasted
bedroom
8
to
hours.
hallway. Check locked door. Leave apartment. Move to kitchen. Return to bedroom. Move to kitchen. Kyle walked into the center of the kitchen. Check pantry. Check fridge. Check fridge.
Kyle opened the fridge, intending to find something to eat.
Prepare breakfast. Eat crust on fridge wall. Ew. Exit fridge. Eat condiments?
Eat the fridge, not exit.
Oh, eat the fridge. Yeah, let's eat the fridge.
Kyle pointed his
Kyle-
neck directly upwards and hoisted the fridge on top of his face.
What do you mean?
Somehow, miraculously, he wrapped his mouth around the device. He started to swallow. In one slow, horrible movement, the fridge slid down Kyle's throat.
What the fuck?
After many gurgles, pops, and snaps, Kyle felt relatively sure the fridge would not come back out.
Bad food now. So,
Yeah,
next.
that's what Kyle is did. Check pantry?
Kyle wanted to access the pantry, but found it was locked with a small keyhole.
Why? Back to hallway, I guess. We're gonna check a locked door.
Kyle walked over to the strange door in the hallway, but found quickly that the door was locked from the inside.
Force the door open.
Kyle decided it would be best to try to force the door open with use of his face. After smashing his features into solid wood for several minutes, Kyle gained severe short-term amnesia.
Does that say I have 7 hours left?
Yep. Every click is 1 hour.
Why? Leave apartment. Visit downstairs neighbor. Visit tech store.
Kyle
I
approached
thought you
his
were clicking it.
downstairs neighbor's door and knocked.
Oh.
A middle-aged woman named Gabby answered the door.
Sorry, I won't click
We're
anything
going
you
to
say.
consume Gabby. That's what we're doing.
Kyle unhinged his jaw and swallowed Gabby whole.
Sucks to suck, loser.
Job done, Kyle returned to the middle of the street.
Just job done.
Visit tech store? Steel Techno Gym.
You're out of time.
Kyle hurried to the set. Sitting across from his host chair was a glamorous woman with an air of genuinity. As Kyle approached her, Rachel looked up and smiled. Rachel's smile quickly turned to shock as she realized Kyle had not put on clothes that day.
You forgot to get dressed.
My bad.
Kyle waved and smiled broadly. Rachel uncomfortably averted her eyes. Kyle started making his rounds around the room, greeting each crew member, none of whom looked at him directly. As it became apparent that Kyle had no intention of leaving, Rachel made some excuses and exited the set. One by one, the crew followed suit. Kyle was left all alone.
Huh.
You're prepared by being a nudist.
Okay.
You can make different choices this time.
Exit bed. Open the closet. Choose an outfit.
Kyle decided to take some time to choose the perfect outfit, knowing how important appearance is.
So, what are your options?
I'm dazed. Slick suit, I guess.
Not the skunk pasties?
Kyle miraculously crammed his dumpy body
Honestly,
into the
option
suit.
B
The
was
chest
going to
pockets
be
were
a suit
filled
of
with
armor.
random knickknacks.
I'll tell you, this one lets you prepare questions for the interview.
Okay, I guess. I'll
Or if
sit
you
at
want the
desk.
key to the cabinet that's in the closet in the fucking safe.
There's a safe in the closet? Oh, now I gotta know. Inspect rusty locker.
Kyle knelt down and inspected the old, rusty container that had been in his closet for ages. It was locked, but had a blade-shaped slot in the top.
Sit down at desk, I guess. His way over to his desk and sat down. Back to room, check the desk drawer.
And
Write
notes.
notes for interview. I guess we're gonna check the drawer first. I'll open this drawer and his desk, grab one of the items stored there. What was it? A flashlight, CDs, assorted change, or a small key? I guess the small key.
Kyle grabbed the
Excuse
small
me.
key he kept in his desk.
Back to desk. I have a small key. What is the small key for?
The cabinet in the kitchen that you couldn't open.
Oh, write notes.
Kyle wrote down his first question.
Are you a mother? Am I a mother? Is your mother a mother?
What do you want to ask this woman?
Are you a mother, I guess?
Kyle wrote down his second question.
What are some diet tips? Beef, mashed, or blended? Ever eaten a raw egg whole? Diet tips, I guess.
You're trying to do a normal
Kyle
interview.
wrote down his third question.
What's your funniest story? Do you ever smile? I purposely ran over a puppy. No!
I will say this leads to one of my funniest line deliveries in this game ever.
Fine, but nah.
Kyle wrote down his last question.
What's your guilty pleasure? Do you feel guilty? Are you guilty? Are you?
This one?
Are you?
Kyle ripped his page of notes out of the notebook and got up from the desk.
Back to room. Exit bedroom to hallway. Check locked door.
Kyle walked over to the strange door in the hallway, but found quickly that the door was locked from the inside.
Back to hallway, I guess.
The key is
Move
used
to
here.
kitchen. Go to pantry.
Kyle wanted to access
Unlock
the
the
pantry, but
small
found it was
key.
locked with a small keyhole. The pantry door lock creaked as if it hadn't moved for years, but eventually opened.
In the
Instead of an
pantry.
assortment of canned goods and grains, Kyle's pantry stored his massive amount of bottled lard.
Why? Fuck it, chug it. Chug, 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 chug.
Kyle voraciously grabbed the closest bottle, snapped the neck against the wall, and sucked out all of the fat within a minute.
Ew. Another one.
Kyle wildly sucked down another bottle. He felt very sick.
Vomit on floor and stop. Or another one. Another one.
Kyle's vomit and the lard were mixing in a way to make it hard to tell which was which.
Alright, I guess we'll finish off the pantry.
As Kyle finished the last bottle of lard, he felt a wave of accomplishment come over him.
Well, that's good. Felt accomplished.
Kyle hurried to the set. Sitting across from his host chair was a glamorous woman with an air
Right.
of genuinity. As
Here
Kyle
she
approached
is.
her, Rachel looked up and smiled.
Approach Rachel.
"Good evening, Kyle," she said, looking him in the eyes. "I've been looking forward to being here."
Neat.
Kyle responded.
Scream and spin in circles or answer politely. Let's answer politely.
Ah, damn.
"And I as well, Rachel," answered Kyle, extending his hand in greeting. "You are a most welcome guest."
Shake hands. After consuming
After
copious
other
amounts of
mild
lard.
exchanges of pleasantries, Kyle and Rachel were prompted to take their places for the broadcast.
Okay.
A moment after seating, the studio lights brightened and the cameras clicked on. "Good evening, everyone," said Kyle, looking at the camera. "Welcome back to Stay Up Late with Kyle." Kyle vomited all of the horrible things he had eaten earlier onto the floor.
Neat.
Rachel looked at Kyle, concerned, gave a couple coughs, and decided to play it cool and keep the show running.
Okay.
Kyle stopped, then vomited again, then continued with a shaky voice. "Tonight, I have the pleasure of interviewing the lovely Rachel May, who needs no more
I'm
introduction."
sorry, does that say become Rachel May?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, let's do that one.
"However," said Kyle, suddenly dropping his voice, "Rachel May is not sitting next to me. She is not new to this show. She did not walk in before me. In fact," said Kyle, "I am Rachel May."
Okay.
Rachel looked at Kyle, confused, and silently mouthed the words, "You are who?" Kyle stood up quickly and threw his arm high above him, pointing upwards. "I have never been Kyle," he proclaimed. "I have never been the host of the show Stay Up Late with Kyle."
What the hell's going on?
You derailed
Kyle
this
looked
interview,
and
sir.
pointed directly at the camera. "I am here for but one reason, to interview myself." Kyle sat down in his chair and went to produce the notes he had taken earlier. Kyle read the first question on his list. "Are you a mother?" I'm glad you asked," said Kyle. "Yes, I am." Or, yes, you are," said Kyle, trying to figure out who was talking to whom. Or, "I am..." In a fit, Kyle continued to re-answer his question, trying to come up with the correct phrasing. Rachel spoke up. "Kyle, I'm not a mother at all, so it doesn't really matter." "Lies! Impossible! I don't believe it!" Kyle banged his fist on the chair.
Look what you did, Sko.
"Kyle, I've never been in a position for that. I've really just focused on my career. All you need to do is ask." Rachel smiled sweetly. Kyle was silent for a moment.
She just say
Then,
smash?
realizing he had no idea what he was doing, he decided to let Rachel talk.
Okay.
"So what about your career? Do you enjoy what you do? How'd you get into it?" The two continued talking for the better part of an hour, Kyle asking questions and Rachel answering accordingly. Eventually, Kyle's producer signaled to Kyle that it was time to stop. The broadcast ended. The crew, Rachel and Kyle, said their goodbyes and returned home. But Kyle continued to think about Rachel after the interview ended. Something about Rachel had struck Kyle. He wasn't exactly sure what. But he did know that he was interested to hear that she was single.
Smash. Is
You
that
did a good
it?
job.
Kyle hurried to the set.
I'm going to make a couple choices and I want
Sitting
to see you
across
react
from
to
his
them.
host chair was a glamorous woman with an air of
Right,
genuinity.
and she's glamorous
As Kyle
and genuine.
approached her, Rachel looked up and smiled. "Good evening, Kyle," she said, looking him in the eyes.
Neat.
"I've been looking forward to being here." Kyle responded. Kyle stretched his arms wide, tilted his neck upwards, and was interrupted by his producer telling him and Rachel that it was time to start the show. Kyle shoved his producer out of the way, spread his arms wide, and began to scream loudly.
Why?
He began to rotate slowly, screaming throughout, lightly brushing his hands against the faces of Rachel and his producer. After several minutes, Kyle was finished. He slowly put his hands to his sides and smiled. "I'm ready," said Kyle.
That's a great way to introduce yourself to people. You should try it sometime.
I'm ready. Let's get
Rachel
it.
blinked at Kyle, shrugged, and walked over to her seat. A moment after seating, the studio lights brightened and the cameras clicked on. "Good evening, everyone," said Kyle, looking at the camera. "Well, Kyle vomited." Rachel looked at Kyle. Kyle stopped. "Tonight, I have the pleasure of..." Kyle motioned to Rachel, who smiled and waved at the camera. "Hello, Kyle," she said. "I'm glad to be here." "Well, I'm sure we'll have a lot to discuss. So we might as well dive right in," said. "I'm very ready," said Rachel with a winning smile. Kyle
All right.
produced the notes he had taken earlier.
Which one do you want to ask first? Let's go.
Are you guilty?
Okay. Introduce her or someone.
Rachel. "Are you guilty?" Kyle threw his questions on the floor, stood up, and pointed at her. Rachel's eye twitched slightly. "Guilty of what, dear Kyle?" She smiled disingenuously. "Guilty," spat Kyle, "of your crimes." Rachel did not answer. Her eyelids both started twitching uncontrollably.
Why?
What are we doing?
More?
Kyle asked another question.
Go for the puppy one.
Hey, I ran over a puppy on purpose, said Kyle. Everyone in the studio froze. Kyle spread his hands out wide. It's a joke!
Okay, Titus.
Nobody laughed with Kyle. Several minutes later, he stopped laughing and moved on. Kyle asked another question.
Diet tips?
Rachel, you manage to keep such a thin and healthy figure, said Kyle. What is your best diet tip? Well, a good diet starts with a plan, answered Rachel. And don't break it. Cheat days can turn into a habit. But, she continued, that doesn't mean a midnight snack here and there isn't allowed. She smiled. Kyle looked at his flabby self, decided not to comment, and moved on. Kyle asked another question.
Are you a mom?
Rachel, I and many others would love to know. Are you a mother? Kyle looked up from his notes. Well, being a single woman with a career, she answered, that's not something that has crossed my mind. Rachel smiled genuinely at Kyle. Very reasonable indeed, said Kyle. He referenced his paper of questions. After reading his final question, Kyle looked up from his paper. Well, Rachel, he said, I think that's all I was planning on asking you. If that's the case, Kyle, may I ask you something in return? Asked Rachel, smiling one more time. Do you prepare for your interviews in advance? Because you seem very together.
Yeah, so doesn't Kyle seem
Do
very
I?
together?
Before Kyle could answer, the camera shut down. The broadcast was over. Kyle returned home knowing the interview had gone well. But as he lay in bed and drifted to sleep, he felt that perhaps something was still missing.
What's missing?
That'd be
Wow.
because the game has a lot of endings.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So, what do you think? Kyle is famous.
What the fuck did we just do?
Interviewed someone.
Did
In
we
a
though?
normal way.
We screamed and spun in circles, gently rubbing against people's faces, and then asked the lady we're interviewing if she's guilty, and she just freaked the fuck out.
Oh, so that was Kyle is famous.